So far we have been talking about situations involving voting where the different voters have different opinions about what is the best alternative. And then we want to figure out a way of aggregating all these different opinions into a single ranking system. However, there are other situations in which voters do not really have any conflict of interest, right? In the sense that they all want the same thing, right? So they all agree on what is the ranking. It's just that they have different information about what is the best thing to do, right? So in this case, the idea is that we are going to want to see if the voting system itself is going to actually give a way to figure out what is the best ranking among the different alternatives where among people who share a same goal, right? So just to give you some examples, imagine that you're considering a situation where juries are basically deciding to whether actually have the person declared guilty or innocent. So in this case, you can imagine that all of the jury members agree that the person should be deemed guilty if the person had actually committed the crime, whereas if the person had not committed the crime, then the person should be acquitted, right? So here there is no kind of like debate about what should be the ideal outcome. The only problem is that jury members do not know a priori about whether this person is guilty or not, right? So they may have initial beliefs, and on the basis of the evidence that is being kind of like presented in court, they may change their beliefs, right? And how they change their beliefs depends on the different information that they are seeing, as well as the how their experience teaches them to kind of like process that information. And so you may end up with different answers, but all of them agree that they all want to kind of like reach the right decision, right? Similarly, you can expect that whenever there are decisions made by a board of advisors to a company, you might expect that all the advisors actually want the company to do as well as possible, right? However, even then, you might imagine that there might be situations where the board members might disagree about what to do, not because they don't all want the welfare of the company, the profit of the company to go up as much as possible, but because they may have access to different information, and they may have kind of, even if they have the same information, they may be processing the information differently based on their experiences, right? So in that context, can we come up with a way of aggregating these different opinions in order to get to the right decision as much as possible, right? So this is the exercise where we are basically combining the act of voting as well as information aggregation, right? So here, individual rankings among different alternatives differ only because they are based on different information, or because they are based on different evaluations of the available information, right? If everyone in such a case had the same information and evaluated it in the same way, then they would have actually had the same ranking, right? So this is to contrast the situation where you had different football experts, even though they all had the same information about the different top players. Some of them preferred Maradona and some of them preferred Pele. Here you would not have such a thing. So what we are going to do is we are going to examine this world and show some complexities that appears whenever you have got individuals who are voting in such situations, right? So we are going to illustrate some of these issues by using a simple framework. So let's go over that framework. So you have got a setting in which there are two options, X and Y, right? And one of them has to be chosen, right? So one of these two alternatives, X and Y, is actually the best choice, right? And each voter has to cast a vote for what she believes to be the best choice. It's just that you don't know actually what is the best choice, right? So your initial belief is that the probability that X is the best choice is half. So things are symmetrical at the beginning. You think that X has the probability half of being the best choice, and Y has the probability half of being the best choice, right? One of them is the best choice. After that, what happens is that each of the voters individually receive an independent private signal about which of X or Y is better, right? So if you receive a signal saying that X is better, we are going to call that X signal. And if you receive a signal that Y is better, we are going to call Y signal, right? So one of these two signals is going to be received by each of the voters, right? So some of them might receive X signal, the others might receive Y signal, and these are going to be independently generated, right? And also, you do not get to observe what are the signals that the other voters have received, right? This is the setting. Now, we know that signals favoring the best choice occur at a rate of q greater than half. So what does that mean? So in the language of conditional probability, what that last sentence meant is that if X is best, right? X is actually the best alternative. In that world, the probability that X signal is observed is given by Q greater than half, right? So if X is best, then you are more likely to get a signal saying that X is actually best, or more likely to have received this X signal. Similarly, if Y is actually the best, then the probability that you are going to receive a Y signal, that is given by probability Q, right? So that's how you should interpret this last line, saying this is what it means to say that signals favoring the best choice occur at a rate of Q greater than half. Okay. Now, we are going to make two assumptions, and later on we'll relax these two assumptions. But for now, we are going to make the assumption that all votes are going to be made simultaneously, which means that no voter is going to be able to see the decisions made by any other voter before reaching her decision. And secondly, we are going to assume that everyone is going to vote sincerely. So what that means is that we are going to assume that each voter is going to choose the alternative that she believes is the better one based on the information that she has available in the form of a private signal, right? Remember, that is the only information that is here. Why is this a assumption, you might ask? So we'll see later on situations where this actually may not be true, right? But let's keep that for later on. So let's continue in this world. You have got each voters simultaneously having to make a decision, and each voters are going to vote sincerely in the sense that they will actually select the alternative that they believe to be the better, right? So as before, whenever you observe a signal favoring X, you have to calculate the conditional probability that conditional on the X signal being observed, what is the probability that X is the best, right? And you are going to basically vote for X if this conditional probability is greater than half, and otherwise you're going to vote for Y if this conditional probability is less than half. So this is very similar to the structure that we discussed during the information cascades. If you actually notice, the only difference is that here you have to make the decision based on only on the signal that you are observing. Okay, so let's carry out the calculation. Let's see what this conditional probability looks like. So we can use the Bayes rule that we discussed previously, that probability of X being best conditional on you receiving the X signal. This can be rewritten using Bayes rule as the fraction, which is has the numerator probability X is best multiplied by probability X signal received conditional on X being the best. And in the denominator, you have that probability of receiving the X signal, right? So as before, we can calculate the denominator using the law of total probability. So what is the probability that you receive the X signal? So you have to take into account that what is the probability that X is best, multiply that by probability of receiving the X signal conditional on X being the best, plus what is the probability that Y is best, and multiply that by probability of receiving the X signal conditional on Y being the best, right? So because we had the prior belief that X best and Y best, these two are equally likely events, so probability of X best and probability of Y best are both equal to half. What is the probability that you receive X signal conditional on X being best? So this is already what we had assumed. So this is Q. And what is the probability of X signal given Y is best? So remember that we had that probability of Y signal is observed given Y is best is given by Q. So this expression here is going to be given by 1 minus Q, right? Now, if you simplify, basically you have that the half Q's cancel out, and so you end up with half. So the denominator is half. What about the numerator? So we already kind of know that that the probability of X being the best is equal to half. And we also know that probability of receiving the X signal conditional on X being best is Q, right? So the numerator is half times Q. So the two halves cancel out, and you end up with that this is the probability, right? That probability of X best given X signal is equal to Q, right? And remember, our assumption was that Q is more than half. So what this tells you is that if you do receive the X signal, then you should actually vote for X being the best, right? So that is basically what it is. So this actually kind of like leads us to an interesting insight, right? Which is also goes by the name of Condorcet-Jury theorem. Again, Condorcet being another French social scientist from the 18th century. So what is the result saying? So say it's saying the following. Suppose that X is the best alternative. I could have framed this result in terms of Y being the best alternative as well. But for now, let's stick to this. So suppose X is the best alternative. Then as the number of voters increases, the fraction of voters who choose X will converge almost surely to the probability of receiving an X signal, which is Q more than half. So where is this result coming from? This is basically coming from a version of the law of large number, right? So this is saying that suppose X is the best alternative. In that world, we know that the probability of the X signal being generated is Q, right? Now, if we were dealing with a small number of people, then you may or may not have got this signal, right? It depends. But as you are increasing the number of voters, right? As you're increasing the number of essentially the signals being generated, then the fraction of voters who are getting the right signal is basically going to converge to this Q, right? So this is exactly what the law of large number tells you, right? what this implies is that because more than half the people are going to get the right signal, and we have this basically implicit assumption that all the people who are going to get the signal are going to vote in favor of what they think is the best alternative. This is what we saw as well. Then what we have, if we combine these two things, is that the probability of the majority reaching a correct decision converges to one, right, as the numbers grow. Why? Because then you have got more than half the people going to receive almost surely the right signal, and then that is going to, therefore, the probability of getting the correct decision converges to one. And so this was again kind of like another foundation that was thought to be important in establishing this wisdom of crowd, right? Where you have the idea that aggregating the estimates of many people can actually again lead to a decision of higher quality compared to that of any individual expert. So remember, this is something that we had also discussed at the end of our discussion on cascades, and this goes by the name of wisdom of crowds.